This podcast features adult content not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. You have been warned.
Welcome back. So we are here in the second part of Back to the Story Bonfire Fables, Episode 1, and we can get started on the next few questions about our characters.
And the next one kind of leads from the last. We heard about the original inspiration behind our characters, but now, what's the most unexpected way your character has changed from how you originally envisioned them?
Meli's discovering herself.
Yeah, Meli's actually become a person. Jumping off the cliff probably was something I wasn't expecting to do.
Really doing anything that's just like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, when I say it, I'm like, why am I doing this?
Like, you've done that a couple times now.
Yeah. Meli has this very interesting lack of impulse control.
Yeah, it was that was interesting.
It's like a panic response.
Jumping off the cliff. Jumping off the cliff was the first like big one.
Yeah.
The one after that was that I can remember was casting Shocking Grasp on King Called.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
I was just like, I know it's stupid. It's like, I think it's whenever her friends are in trouble, she just immediately panics and goes, oh god, and just does something really stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably something along those lines. Yeah.
Being like, I don't know what to do.
Mine's pretty easy. No. I don't have an answer for that because Amsen's exactly where I wanted him to be. Probably to give an actual answer though. Probably the most interesting thing that I wasn't expecting was for Calvin to be basically like another brother, or the only brother for Amsen because he's an only child. Like we don't play it very much in the episodes because it's a little hard to get the roleplay in there sometimes, like everybody, because there's 7 people in the group. And so Calvin and Amsen as players, we don't get to roleplay it very much, but in character, Amsen and Calvin are kind of like brothers from different parents kind of deal, because Calvin has spent so much time working for Donovan, Amsen's dad, and Amsen is more than happy about that because he did not want to be a blacksmith. He wanted to be a storyteller and a songwriter and a song singer and all of those wonderful things. He didn't want to slave away at the hot anvil. So Amsen really liked Calvin because of that, and Calvin being over at his house all the time, they got pretty close. So I think Michael and I will work a little bit more on getting that role play in there and that kind of like brotherly thing going. Because it is a part of our characters, but yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting it to turn out that way. I fully expected all of us to like become friends and everything, because childhood start. We start off with that childhood innocence and grow up and kind of lose that innocence over time as we grow up together and we talk about the world and everything. But I definitely wasn't planning for Amsen and Calvin to have the relationship that they do have.
Well, I guess I will. Vesper, I think, like I said, I kind of based her off of like the Taco twins, like the idea of that personality, of being kind of aloof, kind of lazy, kind of not giving a shit. And I think Vesper has become, just in playing her, because she's the cleric, she's the healer, she cares a lot more than I intended her to. I intended her to be very much just like, I don't give a fuck kind of character, like really laid back, and she's ended up a lot more empathetic and a lot more caring than I anticipated her to be. Like, she still doesn't always hit the mark on how she makes other people feel with the things she says and does. But there are moments where I realize that she is a lot more heartfelt than I intended her to be. Well, not than I intended, than I originally envisioned her being. And she's a lot more hardworking than I intended, because she has to be, because that's just the personality she grew into, was someone who really cares about her own growth and progress. She doesn't really care about what other people think of her so much, but she has very high standards for herself and really cares about achieving her own goals. And it became something that, like, she's a lot more invested in her own growth than I originally expected her to be. I expected her to kind of be, like I said, very chill, very laid back, and almost kind of lazy and unmotivated. And now she's a very, very motivated woman. So, yeah.
I like to tease Swan by calling Vesper the group's mom.
That's the thing, is I didn't want her to be the group mom because in real life and anytime I play, I always end up being the group mom because that's just my personality. But again, I'm the healer, so I kind of ended up.
Yeah, you kind of ended up falling.
Anyways.
Yeah, you're not always like it, but every now and then it comes out, and it's just this is me tapping into Amsen, and it's just fun to poke you about it sometimes.
Oh, it's great.
Well, sometimes Amsen strikes me as kind of the group dad in some ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I hadn't thought about it, but I can see that.
So I guess for Ellory, the biggest surprise for me is that she cares a lot more about other people's approval than I ever expected. She especially cares about the approval of her friends. Random strangers, no, who cares? But she is worried a lot of the time about how her friends see her, and because I think she sees, this is kind of hard to explain. Well, one thing, I did not expect her to have the kind of self-esteem issues that she has ended up having. That is something unexpected that came up from some things that happened during the time skip between the childhood start and the beginning of the actual campaign. And the other thing is that, so she sees loyalty as something that you do. It's action, not something that you talk about. But she recognizes that her friends like to talk about that kind of thing more than she does to a certain extent. So she's like, do they understand? Like, she has a hard time, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to explain what I'm thinking. But Ellory has a hard time being able to tell if her friends understand how she sees them, and she has a hard time understanding how they see her. So it's a thing that she's been worrying about a lot. And you can kind of see it in that moment where she asked Meli if things are okay between them. And you can kind of see it in the way she behaves sometimes, even if she doesn't express what she's feeling verbally very well. So yeah, that was definitely the biggest surprise. I was thinking that she would be a lot more confident in herself than she actually is. That brings us to our next question, which is, what was a favorite moment from the prologue?
Well, mine's easy. I want to jump right on this one.
All right, go ahead.
Because it's already been mentioned. Meli jumping off the cliff.
It's so good.
That was fantastic.
It was awesome because we were freaking riding a dragon down a cliff towards the water, running from like a literal demon, and then Meli comes running in because she wasn't there the week before.
Just fucking Pocahontas dives.
Yeah, and she just straight up Pocahontas right off the cliff all the way down. And that was our first big what the hell moment as a group, when we were just like, what is going on here? And Yeah, and then, Michael's just like, what the hell's going on? Calvin turns around, Meli's falling off of the cliff for some strange reason. It's like, what the hell, Meli? How'd you get here? And then he like jumps off of the dragon, grabs her in midair, breaks her fall as they smash into the water.
I want to point out
he
again,
saves me from everything.
He does. As the healer, though, I want to point out again, in the prologue, Klaus says that was how Calvin broke his arm, and it is true, because Calvin broke every bone in his body, and I had to fix it. And I want people to remember that.
But yeah, that's my favorite moment, because it was like, it told me a lot about Katie. First off, it was a big growing moment for Meli, but it was our first big, like, this is the most epic thing that we've ever done moment.
Yeah.
It was great.
Katie?
I think this bit was in the prologue. It was a small moment, but I really kind of liked it. It was when Amsen came and brought flowers.
Yes. Okay, so I'll tell this story a little bit. Because I planned it in advance. So I wanted to do this silly little scene where Amsen absent-mindedly brings Meli flowers, and it looks like, I wanted it to look like an extremely awkward little moment of just like, yes, Amsen's very charismatic, but he has no idea what he's doing sometimes. And so he brought her chrysanthemums, because he had heard that hey, wizards can use them for shit, the petals make great tea. You can use them for as a material component for some things. Stems you can use to write with, or you can make incense out of it, whatever. So he's just like, all right, happens to find some chrysanthemums. DM's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then I wanted to set up, and this is kind of with Nyessa. I propose the idea that, hey, Ellory, works at the tavern or whatever. She wants her friends to try out some new things that they're going to be selling at the tavern. So then Amsen comes to Meli's house, because Ellory isn't exactly doesn't have the best reputation, but Amsen does have a decent reputation. He's a storyteller and a fool sometimes, but he's a good person.
Yeah,
so
Meli's parents hate Ellory.
Yeah.
And the rest of us, let's be honest.
So,
especially Ellory.
So I coordinated this with Nyessa out of game, and they're like, okay, we're going to do this. And then, so Amsen strolls up to this mansion of a house that Meli lives in, and opens the door. And I was kind of not, kind of yes, really hoping that her dad or somebody similar would answer the door. But I think Meli answered the door.
Well, that was because it was another session kind of like this where the DM couldn't make it. So it was just the four of us role-playing scenes.
Yeah. So Amsen walks up, Meli answers the door, and there's Amsen standing there in his nice clothes, with a basket of a couple of drinks and cookies and baked goods and whatever, and a bouquet of flowers. And it was as awkward and embarrassing and amazing as I thought it would be. And then Katie did not know about it at all.
No,
I didn't tell her at all.
You really threw me for a loop when you're like, oh, I want to talk to Meli. I was like, what?
And so her reaction was perfectly authentic, and it was awesome. But yeah, I just wanted to do that scene because it's just Amsen, yeah, he knows how to talk, he knows how to make people feel good about themselves, that kind of thing. But sometimes he has no idea what's going on or what he just did. So, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that's Katie's favorite moment.
I have two. One semi-serious, one's kind of serious, and one that's not. The serious one, I really liked the moment when Calvin was joining the Unhallowed, and Vesper, just personally as a character moment, I really liked that Vesper didn't agree with it, and the reasons she didn't agree with it. And so Calvin was running the Unhallowed at Wicked Hill. We were at the tower, and Vesper kept trying to catch his eye and like shake her head and go, "No, we can't do this. We can't do this." And he was not paying attention. He never does. And she gets up and she storms out. And we're all like 16 at this point. So she's a moody teenager. So she storms out. And he comes after her later and he's like, why, what's the problem? And they have this moment where they're talking. And it wasn't because like some of them dealt with demon blood and things like that. It wasn't any moral issue that she had. It was that she didn't think Calvin could handle it because he is such a reckless person. And every person we spoke to at the tower and even before about the tower was like, you need to be strong enough mentally and emotionally to handle the hunter's bane and the things that you have to dip into in order to live this lifestyle, and you can't become a victim of it. And she didn't think Calvin was strong enough mentally or emotionally to handle that because she's seen him rush into things so often without a thought or a care, that she figured, oh, he's just going to give into it because it's making him stronger or whatever. And I think that was the first moment I realized that Vesper is not so good with her words most of the time when she's really like in the moment with her emotions. Because she looks at Calvin and she goes, you may be strong enough here, and gestures to all of him. And then goes, but you're not strong enough here, and taps him on the forehead and then taps him on the chest where his heart is. And that was the first moment that she like that for me, it was intentional, that she intentionally did something kind of cruel and rude. You see more of it too when she's talking to Ball in Cave's Respite. That she's just when she's emotional, she doesn't think her words through. She has moments where she does, like with Ellory, that little moment we saw just before we started recording the first episode where you got out of jail and we had that moment.
Yeah.
The non-serious moment that I really loved was the fuck, marry, kill game that the girls played.
Yes.
That was so good.
Okay, so little bit of context for that.
I forgot about that.
So
It was only the four of us and Klaus. I think Klaus is there, right?
He was listening, I think.
Yeah, he was listening. So me and Klaus are just sitting there listening to the three girls here play Marry, Fuck, Kill with various NPCs and then the guys in the party. And it was absolutely hysterical. It was so good. It was so funny.
Oh my god. I still... Because Ellory didn't even hesitate.
Oh yeah, she was the one who suggested the game.
Oh yeah, I know.
So you knew she had her answers already in mind.
Of course, yeah.
What were her answers again?
For the guys in the party?
Yeah.
Okay, so fuck Calvin.
No hesitation when she said it, by the way.
She was like...
It was off the bat. No hesitation. She'd fuck Calvin.
Like, if there were no strings attached, of course. Because if this were like any normal situation, it would be a terrible idea, and everybody knows it. But, if there were no consequences, sure. Then marry Amsen, because he's the most likely to be able to put up with her. And kill Ball, because he deserves a better fate than marriage.
I almost feel like we should play this again, because I think all of our answers have changed.
Yeah. So...
Actually, I don't think mine... You said you would marry everybody because you didn't want to pick.
No,
yeah.
What were yours?
Oh, Vesper said she would marry Ball because they're already really good friends. They get along really well, and her parents like him. Then she hesitated because she had to choose. She didn't want to kill anybody, and she also didn't want to fuck anybody. But she went with she would fuck Amsen and kill Calvin.
And then Meli tried to cop out for a solid 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We had to come back to this later.
Days later in game.
Yeah, in game a week and a half later kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then finally I think she just gave an answer.
Marry everybody.
Yeah, she just married everybody. She went the polygamous route.
Hell yeah.
So
I think we can play it again because I think our answers have changed.
Yeah. But yeah, so after realizing that was about as good as an answer as we were going to get out of Meli, we kind of gave up on it.
Yeah.
So Amsen.
I was going to say, what
What would your answers be for the girls?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we never actually did that.
We never did that.
That's right.
What would your
You did
answers
answer for the guys, though.
Did.
Sorry?
You answered for Calvin and Ball, and then we threw
And our
Meli's brother.
third was, Meli's brother. Her
Wait,
hot older brother.
Her hot brother, Carlisle.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right, because Amsen came in later, and then... Yeah. For the girls, oh, goodness.
Now that all three of us are staring at you.
Yes, now that you're all... My goodness. Oh my. I would marry Meli, kill Vesper, and fuck Ellory.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, it's fine.
Mhm.
Rude.
Well, just name a time and place.
Why do you
But
think
no, that would be kind of weird.
Why do you think I'm over at your house all the time?
Oh my god.
For the drinks.
Yep, it's the place with all the alcohol. But yeah, no, yeah. That's one thing that I have trouble with playing Amsen all the time, is that he's, I think, so much more than Amsen does. And I'm much less charismatic than Amsen is. I stutter, you can hear it in the recordings sometimes. Amsen doesn't, yeah. But I try.
Have you all three given your favorite moments from the prologue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not given mine, because I have too many, and it's my own fault for creating this question about favorites. So I'm going to probably mention a couple.
Okay.
The first one is when, the game of Fuck, Marry, Kill was definitely high up there on the list. But another moment that I really liked was when we first encountered the bronze dragon. We were having a beach day. Most of the party were sitting on the beach watching a couple of our younger sisters playing in the water. Ellory and Ball were off in the woods. I can't remember what we were actually talking about, but I think it had something to do with our previous encounters with some very nasty creatures. And what I really liked was we saw this bronze dragon flying towards us. We were all running through the woods. Calvin was carrying the younger sisters, his younger sister and Ellory's younger sister, basically like footballs under his arms. He was carrying them through the woods. We found this little place to hide, which was right outside the entrance to the Gullah Caverns. And there wasn't enough space for everybody, so we kind of got the girls wedged in first, and then us older teenagers. Ball was kind of wedged in front of all of us, but there wasn't enough room for everybody. And Calvin takes off, running in the opposite direction through the woods, trying to get the dragon's attention and draw it away from us. And that was such a character-defining moment for him, is where it's like, okay, I know who this character is now.
Yeah, that was kind of the big moment when we all understood that Calvin was going to be the constantly self-sacrificing guy for everybody.
Yeah.
And he still is, like, just about once every session.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that really solidified how Ellory viewed him. I'm not going to go too much into that right now because I think it's probably going to come up in roleplay in the near future. But that was a really interesting moment, a really dramatic moment, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know that this dragon was going to end up being kind of an ally. And then the other moment that I really like, so early on for Ellory, when her sorcery started manifesting, every time it showed up had something to do with Ball. So one time when this was actually after we came back from our first meeting with the dragon, we got back into town. We were all kind of trying to figure out what we were going to do next. And for some reason, I can't remember why at the time, but Ellory thought that this would be a great moment to confront Ball and accuse him of being the source of all these weird magical things that were happening to her. So she got up in his face, which was a little bit easier to do at the time because he was only 8 feet tall then instead of 10 feet tall, but that was still a 3 foot height difference. So she tried to get up in his face anyway, and was being all accusatory, and he's trying to be his normal helpful self. He puts his hand on her shoulder, and I think he cast Detect Poison and Disease, or something like that, to try and see if there was some recognizable cause that he could discover that might be making all this weird magical shit happen. And that caused Ellory to have her second wild magic surge. And that was just, it was really interesting because it was once again Ball doing something that set Ellory's magic off. And the other reason it was really fun was because all you in the chat were making the most horrible jokes.
Because it was stone skin.
Yes, because stone skin was the effect that the magic surge had. And Swan, would you like to share the joke that you made?
I'm good.
But yeah, and just it was just a flood of like shipping Ball and Ellory, of like, ooh, now they're gonna be together. Oh, they're like literal magical sparks flying. You know, it was just like a solid 10 minutes, just a waterfall of like,
of us being terrible people,
of us just incessantly teasing Ellory about it.
Yeah,
Roger
was so great.
Roger was silently laughing his ass off the entire time.
Because every time, just the way the dice rolled, it all had to do with Ball.
I wish Roger was here. I'd love to pick his brain more about Ball, because there's a lot that goes on. Because he usually talks to me after the games, and we like go over what happened and what we're thinking for the next time. And he revealed like some stuff about Ball that like I would never have seen. And there's so much that goes on in Ball's head that like we don't see because he's so quiet. That I really wish Roger was here that we could pick his brain.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get him in next time.
Yeah. We've got questions for Ball and Calvin and everyone who isn't here that we'll have to answer at some point.
And interestingly enough, that leads into our next question. How do you keep doing that?
I'm just really good at segues.
So the next question is, what is one thing that you especially like about another player's character?
For once, I don't have an answer in mind. I was thinking about it, but I didn't finish thinking about it.
I mean, I've got things I like about everyone's character, you know.
Yeah, same.
It's hard to pick just one.
We can always all take a different person.
Yeah.
roll a d6. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and say that I'll give a serious answer later, but I'm gonna cheat out of this a little bit and say that my favorite thing about Klaus is his amazingly deep voice.
Oh yeah, his voice is so cool.
It is. He's so good.
Yeah.
And he does like the dragons and stuff. It's just like, oh my god.
Yeah. As an amateur voice actor myself, it's just like I wish I had a voice that deep. The only thing that the rest of us as a party like to tease him about is that his evil, harsh voice is the exact same every single time.
However, so two things on that, because I just want to piggyback and praise Klaus because he's an amazing DM. He had a voice in the last Northhill game. It was this huge evil like demon that was guarding these souls in hell. And I don't know what the fuck he did, but he hasn't quite done it since. it sounded like it felt like he was looming over me. Just the way he spoke like with his throat or something. And I was using my headphones and it sounded like he was right next to my ear snarling, and it was incredible. Like, I got chills. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of dragons, everyone I talk to about D&D is like, oh yeah, your friend Klaus likes dragons. No, you don't understand. And Nyessa had a moment of that where she's like, I heard the stories, but he dropped a dragon on us at level 0. And I'm like, I told you. No one believes me until they play with him and you see how many fucking dragons there are.
See, I believed you. I just didn't realize quite how far that went.
I know.
And then we tease him about it and he gets all like quiet and he's just like, I just really like dragons, guys.
I don't blame him. Dragons are great. However.
Okay, so I'm going to say, darn it, now I had the thought in my head and the words flew away. So I'm going to pick somebody that I'm going to praise, because the relationship between Ellory and Calvin has been on my mind a lot lately. So I'm going to talk about him a little bit, because Calvin is such a fun character. I love how... Oh, wait, now I can't choose what one thing I want to say about him. So, okay, here's one thing that I said to Michael earlier. It's just a little tiny detail, but I love that Calvin is a tea drinker. It's that little tiny thing that just adds something to the character. It's maybe a little bit unexpected, but it fits so well. And just in general, I love how much Calvin cares just about people. It's one of the ways in which he tends to be very different from Ellory, because Ellory doesn't really care about people beyond her own family and friends. But Calvin will put himself in danger for somebody he doesn't know very well, for a stranger. It's kind of what I like about him and Ball both. And Ellory appreciates that too, even though she does not understand it at all.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's one thing that I guess I just didn't really expect from Michael and or Calvin in general, because when he originally proposed the idea to his character, he just said that he basically wanted to play something akin to like The Witcher, and which he is doing in the form of a blood hunter, and the class very, very, very much fits that Witcher kind of feel, where like you are this own eldritch being of sorts with weird and special powers that nobody really understands. But you go around in an anti-hero kind of way, saving everybody from these monsters that you have some sort of strange, uncanny ability to, like, almost on the one hand empathize with them, but on the other hand, you hunt them and kill them like animals. It's so weird. But then Calvin's personality is so opposite of that. He's like super caring and he just wants to protect everybody. And you know, that very much like, I doubt his alignment is lawful good, but he plays lawful good, the stereotypical lawful good character all the time. And it's just it's such a weird like mixture of character traits that makes a really interesting person. So that's my addition to that. I thought of mine to help give Swan and Katie a little bit more time to think. Mine, I'm going to talk about George because I don't know him very well. But from the before the game started, George and I sent maybe 4 messages, 2 from me and 2 from him, back and forth. And those were in group chats. So I knew nothing about him, heard nothing about him at all. All I knew was that he played in the previous game with these people. That's it. That's all I knew. From the second that we met him, and he was talking about how he was or just the very second that our characters' existences were in the same place, I was interested in getting to know Wink more. From the
Definitely.
very second. I was just like, holy crap, this is somebody that Amsen would stay up all night talking to. That very second. He's a Svirfneblin from the Underdark, and he's an anthropologist. Like, isn't that the coolest thing in the world? So for somebody like Amsen, who's constantly looking for stories, who's constantly looking to learn more about other people, and all that kind of thing, like, Wink is one of the most interesting people that Amsen will probably ever meet. So that's a good thing that I have to say about George and Wink.
Yeah, George is maybe I don't want to say it because I don't want anyone else to feel like I'm like snubbing them for saying this, but straight up, George is one of the best role players that I've ever had the fortune of playing with. Like, he is so easy to play off of. He's really clever. He's really thoughtful about how he engages the other characters and the other players. Like, I've noticed Wink is talking to Meli more, and I definitely, knowing George, know that that's because Meli is so quiet and he wants to bring Katie into the forefront more and make sure she's balanced in. And he DMs for us on Tuesdays, and I think that's one of the reasons that my gunslinger has become so vocal and so much like the face of the party, is because he's so easy to play off of and so engaging to play off of. And every time he comes to a role as like one of these characters, he just completely embodies it, and it's always somebody very different, and very interesting and layered, and like, you want to talk to them, you want to stay up all night and just get to know who this person is. I think that's why he and Ravenwick had such a good bond last game, because he was just such an easy character to get along with, and he's just an easy person to get along with, and brings that into his roles, even when he's playing like a curmudgeon or whatever. Like, he's always someone you want to talk to.
Yeah, like, even though he joined late, like, this game and the last game that I played with him, he still fit in, like, immediately.
Yeah. He's super talented.
He is.
So if you're listening, George, this is how I talk about you behind your back all the time. Oh God, and I had to pick something else that I like about people.
You positive thinking.
No. Well, no, it's not that. It's just that there's so much. I guess I'm gonna say I actually really like a lot of Amsen, and I like the way he's approached as a bard.
Thank you.
Because as a skirt chaser, you didn't want to be the Scanlan Shorthalt. You didn't want to be the womanizing, schmoozing skirt chaser bard that we see all the time. And it's really cool to see a character who is very much a quintessential bard, a storyteller, a singer of songs, and wants to go gather stories, but is not a stereotypical bard.
Yeah, that was one thing that, like, I've always been a little bit bothered by in terms of bards. Because to some extent I understand it. Like, one of the greatest bards that I've actually read about is, what was it called? It's by an author named like Mel Odom or something like that. Threat from the Sea. Let me look it up. Threat from the Sea. It's by Mel Odom. It's a 4-part. It contains 3 novels, and there's an extra one that's written by somebody else. It's set in the Forgotten Realms, and there's a bard in there. He's like he's a pretty elderly guy, but he's still spry and everything like that. And Mel Odom, he talks about how, I can't remember the bard's name for the life of me. It was so good though. He talks about in the mind of this bard, he's just like, it's so hard to have a relationship with anybody because he's always on the road and he doesn't want to subject somebody to that life unless, they choose it. And the people that he loves, unfortunately, they're sedentary people. They want to settle down. They want to have roots. They want to have kids. They want to do all this kind of stuff. And so because of that, it's just so hard being a bard, because having that constantly traveling lifestyle where you don't make roots is not for everybody. And so he, in the city of Waterdeep, he had a mistress that he really, really absolutely loved. And every time he was in Waterdeep, they would be together, they would go out and date and things like that. And it was a very lovely romantic relationship. But he didn't, he had his place in the world and she had hers, right? And so reading that, it kind of gave me a little bit of an idea of what kind of a bard I would be like if I were to play a bard. Not saying that Amsen is against, settling down and all that, but just that kind of, constant wanderlust, that constant, I want to learn more about the world, just because the world's cool. And I want to tell everybody about it, So.
Yeah, that's like the Amsen's kind of become like the heart of the group almost. The whole he always offers to talk to people and to be the one that you can come to and confide in. And it's interesting, and I think it may come up in roleplay, so I'm not sure how much I want to say, but I think it's interesting that he's the storyteller and the one who wants to tell all of our stories, but is also the one who wants to be our secret keeper. So that's interesting.
I'm actually really liking how that's forming, that dichotomy.
And I think that's one of the reasons Vesper hasn't sat down with him yet on her own accord, is she's like, well, I don't want this to become something everyone knows, and she's not sure how good he's going to be at keeping secrets. So, yeah.
Definitely one of the things I like about Amsen, too. He wants to gather all this material for stories, but he will keep your confidence if you tell him something that you don't want spread. He's very respectful of that. So, Katie, did you have something you wanted to say about another character?
Something I really like is something about Ellory. I really liked her character development sort of thing. When she first started, I mean, she's always a little bit of an asshole. When she first started, she didn't really care about everyone and just so much, and she was, I don't know, I'm very bad at describing stuff, but she was a lot more in it for like herself and stuff, and it's just kind of nice seeing her over time sort of starting to care for everyone and stuff. I don't know. Do you get what I was saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ellory's still kind of an asshole, but...
Yeah.
But she's an asshole who cares about her friends.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been really interesting playing Ellory and seeing kind of where her emotional and moral development goes, because she has grown up with a very different set of attitudes than what most of her friends have. But they are starting to have a bit of an influence on her.
It's like when you talk to Val and Vesper, I can't remember the exact conversation, but it was kind of just, it was nice seeing her kind of, my brain has gone to mush. But I really liked that conversation. It was really nice to see the development. I realise I'm not making a lot of sense.
No, it's okay, you're good. Do you want to
move on to the next?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so it looks like at this point we're ready to take some of the questions from a couple of our listeners and friends of the show. And the first set comes from Ethan. Do we want to give his where he can be found on the internet?
Yeah, probably.
So you can find him at EthantheRenegade on Tumblr. And the first question that he has sent in, well, one, he asks, we already kind of covered it when we were talking about character inspiration. But the second one is to name one song that is significant to your character.
So we were kind of talking about this while we were waiting for Katie to get here. So I already know my answer. And it totally makes sense. The Show Must Go On by Queen.
Mine is probably a little unexpected. But if you look at, and it fits more now, I think, than it did originally. But it's Cough Syrup by Young the Giant. I think if you, everything about it, from the feel of the music to the actual lyrics, it hit a part of Vesper that doesn't really get shown much, but that definitely influences a lot of her personality.
Mine is Half Hero by Oland. And this one, I think, does a really good job of kind of expressing the conflicting influences in Ellory's life and the conflicting impulses for what kind of person she wants to be.
I don't have an answer because I wasn't expecting this question, but I will find one and give it to you afterwards.
And we will link it in posts in the show notes.
Yeah. Thankfully, we edit this thing.
Yes. Yeah. My original suggestion when Katie wasn't here was "I'm British" by
oh yeah,
Professor Elemental, because Katie's British. So, and I just love Professor Elemental. He's great.
So jealous. Katie doesn't have to do an accent to sound like she's a fantasy character.
No, it's not fair.
That's why I was like going to go noble, because I can be ultra English and it sounds perfect.
Just get that high received pronunciation in there.
Yeah.
All right, so the next question is kind of a broad one. What does your character mean to you?
Oh gosh.
Let's try to keep the answer short on this one, because I have a feeling they could go long.
We've talked about it quite a bit already anyways. Well, we've alluded to it, I should say. For me, Amsen is the opportunity for me to exercise a level of creativity that I feel like I haven't been able to exercise before. Because with Amsen, I'm thinking about trying to make up stories, coordinating with Klaus on legends and lore that I know about, and, making sure that the stories that I'm making up aren't contrary to, the canon that he's making up, and if it is, then, it's just a story that I made up and it doesn't matter, to like make a point kind of deal, like folklore. It's just folklore that Amsen's made up. And then the whole, with cutting words and bardic inspiration, parodying songs and making up or finding insults. I never, think about insulting people, ever. It's just oh, that person's not nice. I'm not going to talk to them anymore. That's how I am in real life, but it's thinking of creative insults to say and things like that. It's a level of creativity that I think has been just waiting to be utilized that I just haven't before, and I really like it.
For me, Vesper is kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, I think, a lot. She and I are very different people. I'm more inclined to wear my heart on my sleeve and to really think about how my words affect others, and she is not. I learned a whole new accent just for her. My go-to is sort of a really shitty English, and I now can do a really shitty Welsh. But there's a lot to her too, and she's really interesting to me because she's the first character I've had that's a religious character. My other characters have not had great relationships with either religion in general or the gods specifically. So it's been really interesting to be a follower who is devout, especially since I'm a very secular person in real life. To be playing this character who is this very religious, faithful person. And she's just become really important to me, especially because, I did have such a clear idea of this devil-may-care character who then became someone else, and she's just very layered and nuanced, and I couldn't get into her at first, and I almost, before we ended the childhood start, was going to re-roll, actually. I didn't know what I wanted to play instead, but I was just like, it's not working, I'm not connecting to her. But I sat down and I just stuck with it, and now I'm in her head, and I get who she is, and she's become a person to me, and so she's just really special to me for that I grew to understand her more. And I think part of it is that she doesn't really delve into her own emotions and understand how she feels, and so it was hard for me to also get there when she refuses to go there. So yeah.
Katie? So we'll come back to Katie in a moment. And I guess for Ellory, there's a little bit that we've already touched on before, that she's a very different character for me to play because of the way she handles anger, which is way different from how I do. And she's much more outspoken about her negative opinions than I am, and a lot less forthcoming with her positive opinions. So it's kind of the opposite from how I much prefer to tell people what I like and what I'm happy about than the things that I hate or the things that make me upset. So it's kind of interesting tapping into a part of myself that I don't really express very much in the outward way that she does. And the other thing is that some of the stuff that's going on in her head, we haven't really seen it as much in play, but she is connected to one of my favorite themes to explore in any kind of fiction, which is loyalty and conflicting loyalties, and trying to figure out what does loyalty actually mean? And similarly, what does family mean? So my two favorite themes in fiction are both things that connect to this character. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that more.
Katie has 8 dogs running around, so...
That is a lot of dogs. I'm kind of jealous.
Do you want to type it in the chat and we can read it out loud?
While we're waiting for that, do we want to ask a couple of character-specific questions that we have?
Sure.
Yeah, because we have a bunch of questions that are asked specifically to different characters, so we can do a few of those.
Yeah. We got from both Ethan and our other lovely contributor, Noël, who is at Verbal Scout on Twitter. We got questions for every character individually and for Klaus, and I explained to them that not everyone was going to be here today, but we'll ask the ones that for the ones that are here, and we'll save the other ones for later.
So the first question is for me, for Ellory. So would somebody else like to ask that so I can get myself into character and answer as her?
So this is from Ethan as well. Ellory, what are you looking for in a romantic partner?
I'm not.
So then what are you looking for in a one-night stand?
Well, okay. That one I can talk about a little bit more. Now, that's not something that I've gotten up to as much as some people might probably assume, but I do have my preferences. I like somebody who's tall, buff, let's see, tattooed is definitely a plus, and not an asshole. Because, even if it's just going to be a physical thing, you still want somebody you can get along with over drinks.
Should I ask Noel's questions for Ellory as well?
Let's go through Ethan's questions first, and then we'll get to Noel's.
Okay.
So the next question from Ethan is for Vesper, and it's a little bit of a similar theme. Imagine someone just confessed their undying love for you. How would you react?
Well, first of all, I'm confused why anyone would confess their undying love for me. But I suppose it depends on who it is. I don't know. It really depends on who it is. I'd probably just walk away if it's a stranger. I don't know. the situation is very different depending on who's confessing their love for me. Do you want to be more specific? If any of you guys want to be more specific.
Let's roll a die.
Okay.
And see which character comes up.
Oh god, okay.
And because I don't really have a list in front of me, I'm going to go in the order of the questions that are asked.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Calvin.
Oh, oh goodness. Right. Well, if Calvin professes undying love to me, I don't know. I mean, I like Calvin a lot, but we don't really see eye to eye, and I really don't think he likes me that much anyways, so I probably try and turn him down as politely as I can. Gosh. Yeah, I just don't understand why anyone would confess to me. I'm not really that sort of person, you know? Yeah, it really depends, and I don't think I'd... Yeah.
Katie, are you in a position where you can answer a question now?
Yes.
Yay!
The toxic question.
So, do we want to go back to what does your character mean to you?
Sure. With Meli, she is a bit awkward, which is fun to play, as sometimes I also am a bit awkward. And I really like that the moments it creates, like taking Calvin the flowers and stuff like that. Especially when it makes you lot laugh. That's always really nice. The second part of my answer is going to sound really soppy and shitty, so... but Meli's main thing is that she loves her friends. So, like, it's really nice to sort of basically just play a character who just loves her friends. Because, so... Yeah.
And everybody loves Meli.
Oh.
She's such a sweetheart.
It's impossible not to.
And the next character question on the list is also for Meli. So, Meli, what is your favorite spell?
My favorite spell is probably Shocking Grasp. Just because it's gotten me into and out of dangerous situations a couple of times. I probably use it more than I should, but it's good.
And then our next question is for Amsen. This is an interesting one.
And Bjorn, too, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Bjorn's barking is much deeper than that.
Sure.
So, Amsen, what is your guilty pleasure?
That's a good question, because I can think of a lot of things that I enjoy, but not very many that I'm guilty of. Alright, sure, I guess I can say this. I keep a great number of secrets that I haven't really told anybody. And some of them I feel a little bit guilty about. Just the way that things have been going. I'm not sure. Yeah, I just... some secrets I keep that I feel like I really shouldn't. And I don't really tell any secrets that I really shouldn't. But yeah, I keep secrets that I probably shouldn't keep sometimes. That's probably... and I kind of like doing that, actually. In some ways, I feel remorse for it, but in other ways, I don't.
Now, Amsen, are these your secrets or other people's secrets?
Generally, they're my secrets. But, I mean, I do keep other people's secrets as well, but generally, the ones that I probably shouldn't be keeping are the ones that are my own.
Well, that's very interesting. Hopefully we'll find a way to pry some of those out of you the way you tend to pry secrets out of other people.
Katie, can we catch you to ask you Noel's Meli questions, and then we'll let you go?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
So we're going to skip for a moment, then. Go ahead.
We only had one question left from Ethan anyway, so we're going to skip ahead to Meli-specific questions from Noël. Number 1, what is your favorite kind of book to read?
I quite like reading fiction novels with adventures and mystery and all that sort of stuff.
That is interesting because I think Ellory has a different idea of what kind of books you like to read.
Well, what does she think?
Well, let's leave that for now.
Okay. Oh dear.
Meli secretly likes to read romance novels that have
Trashy romance.
Yeah,
And
trashy.
yeah, that's
trashy,
pretty much what I was thinking.
Trashy romance novels with Fabio on the cover. Yeah, those ones.
She just treats herself every now and again.
Bubble bath, champagne, and a good book.
And candles.
one with Fabio on the cover.
The second question, what was your favorite childhood book and why?
So my favorite childhood book was one about a little witch who lived in the woods, and she used to brew potions and healing potions and all that sort of stuff. And one day, big scary man came and demanded that she stop making potions because she was running him out of business. So what she did was she invited him for tea, and she secretly gave him a potion in his drink, and she turned him into a frog. And I quite like that story, just because it's someone small standing up to someone big. So
That is adorable.
yeah.
And it just makes me love Meli even more.
My heart just melted.
I mean, we already know that Meli is the type to stand up to somebody bigger than her.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So now we understand where she got that idea.
Yeah, she doesn't do it as well as that witch in the story.
Yet.
Yeah.
You just gotta start turning more people into frogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I need to learn polymorph.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like we have to say goodnight to Katie now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'll see you guys soon.
Bye,
All right,
Katie.
good night.
Right.
Night.
So, I guess let's go back to the last question from Ethan, which was for all of the characters. What is your favorite holiday?
Winterlude. I know it's sort of obvious. It is Aiene's holy day, and it's the winter solstice. And it's just, I like all the lights though, beyond the religious significance, obviously. I like the gift given, and it's just a warm time in the middle of cold winter where we spend time with our loved ones and get to show them how much we appreciate them. And it's a warm spot in the dark and the cold, and we could all use that once in a while.
Yeah. Winterlude's all right. I certainly like getting presents. That's always fun.
Oh, come on,
my
Ellory.
and giving presents.
Mm-hmm.
There
They're
you
not
go.
all stolen either. So my favorite holiday is actually the Festival of Orbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm less into the religious aspects of it. The story is that the spirits of the dead return to their homes, and you could see them in the form of orbs of light. I don't know if I really buy into that, if that's really what these orbs are, but I really enjoy the festival that goes along with it. Because every year, of course, it's super busy in the Copper Sale on that night, but Mogther always shoos me and Sherza out and just lets us enjoy the festival instead of having to work that day. So I get to relax. I get to enjoy all of the noise that's going on in the city. And that's also where we all got our matching bronze scale tattoos.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was Festival Orbs.
So that was definitely... I wouldn't necessarily say that getting a tattoo is fun.
No, I don't think I'm ever going to do it again.
I still might do it again. I think it's worth it.
I might tattoo all of my stories to myself.
Oh no, it's covered. It's just one bicep. It's not even your whole arm.
Yeah.
It's the same story over and over.
Stop. You're terrible.
I know.
But yeah, Festival of Orbs. It's pretty cool.
Mine would be the Eve of Kings. And there are many different reasons. It takes place in the spring, usually. Early spring. And it's a very peaceful holiday. It celebrates the end of a great war, I believe, if I remember the story correctly. And it's a little bit different depending on the culture that's celebrating the Eve of Kings. But it's a great festival where people are telling stories. They kind of sometimes have historical reenactments of battles, which is fun because you get all the history and culture from wars without anybody dying. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very historical.
So that was the last question from Ethan. There are others that are for the characters who are played by people who could not be here tonight. So we'll leave those for another time. And for now, we will go on to questions from Noël at Verbal Scout on Twitter. And the first few that she sent in are for everybody. So first, what is your favorite breakfast food?
My father always makes toast with like cinnamon and vanilla, and you fry it in the pan and then put syrup over it. And that's my favorite. Fresh fruit cut over it.
I'm more of a sausage and eggs kind of girl myself.
Favorite breakfast. My goodness. There's just so much. There's so much to try. So much to choose from. No, I like my morning eggs as well. They're very, very tasty. I would have to say bread, butter, and jam. It's excellent. Along with some eggs and to drink either some sort of juice, whatever happens to be around. Although I'm not entirely opposed to the thought of cow's milk every now and then. First thing in the morning.
Yeah, I like a good breakfast beer.
I prefer tea.
I'm not surprised for either of your answers. Of course, I would be the milk drinker, though.
Of course.
No, I tend to go for the juice usually. The milks, if nothing else is available.
So, next question is, when is your birthday?
Mine is on the 13th. The 13th of the Harvestin, which is the 9th month out of the year, 13 cycle. It's in early fall, I believe. I need to check the calendar. It is mid-fall.
Mine is the 26th of First Seed. It's the same month as the Eve of Kings. And that's in early spring.
Yeah, mine is currently unknown. Since I was a foundling, we don't actually know when I was born. It's safe to say that I was probably born at some point during Frost Thaw, which is the second month of the year, the first month of spring. But I wasn't found until the 4th of First Seed, so that's basically when I celebrate my birthday, since I don't know what the actual day is. You know, Amsen, you and I should have a joint party sometime.
A joint party? Why is that?
Because we're in the same month.
Oh, okay. Perhaps.
You sound so enthusiastic.
Sorry, I'm daydreaming.
Dare we ask what about?
No. It's one of those things where you start with one thought and it kind of links to another one and then another one and another one, and then trust me, you don't want to know where I've gone. It's so out there.
All right. Well, that brings us to our next question. I love Noël's questions so much.
They're so great.
What color or colors are your socks, and who made them?
I bought mine in town. I'm not sure exactly who made them. Merchants. But they're black and grey. Like most of my clothes. But I do have a really nice blue pair at home. It's very warm.
Mine are blue, dark blue, and my mother made them.
Mine are mostly brown, though I've got a couple pairs of like dark blue, dark green, and my favorite pair is red. I guess most of my socks, I made some of them. My sister made some of them. So, follow-up question to that is, how many of you could mend your own socks?
Not well, but I could probably do it.
Give me about a day and I could probably learn how.
Have either of you ever done it before?
Yes, a couple of years ago.
A few times.
All right. I definitely mend my own socks. It's not that, it's kind of frustrating sometimes, but I would like to see how well the two of you actually can mend your socks.
You know, my sewing prowess tends to be more with biological matter.
It's not sewing. That's the first problem.
That's definitely my problem.
It's called darning your socks?
Well, yeah. All right. I've only done it like twice, so.
Let's move on to a few more character-specific questions before we wrap up for the evening. So for Amsen, what is your favorite legend or folktale?
That's a good question. All right. My favorite folktale is one about Ember Shore. Even though Ember Shore is not my hometown, it is my home. And any story about Ember Shore is very interesting. This one I had heard, actually, from a old rival of mine. His name is Hugo. And basically when I was young, I went up against him quite often in the local taverns in Ember Shore every now and then. And I actually won a few times, despite him being much older than I. I haven't heard from him recently, though, which is interesting. Anyways, I originally heard it from Hugo. I will credit my sources. I have no idea where he got it from, though. Long ago, there was a powerful warrior named Saint Gravadine the Solar. Now, he wasn't a real Solar, but that was just the name attributed to him. But he was a powerful warrior of a deity called Valasol. Valasol is one of the deities in the prime pantheon of deities on the world. He's the god of light and creation and all those wonderful things. Kind of like a sun god in a sense. And Saint Gravadine is typically depicted in shining golden plate armor, a shield in the shape of a sun, and a spear made of light. And supposedly he had fought a titan here on Ember Shore when titans still roamed the earth. And he was such a man of pure heart, of someone who truly had the love and attention of Valasol himself. Saint Gravadine sacrificed himself for the good of the people, and Valisol was so touched by his sacrifice that it is said that he cried, and the tears fell down to the earth and created the Ember Stones, which glow along the Ember shore, along the Ember coast. And so that is why it's called Ember Shore. That is why the Ember Stones exist on the Ember coast. And for those of you who don't know what an Ember Stone is, they are wonderful little rocks that magically create heat all the time. It's usually very small, but they're quite useful. Every now and then they have a little bit of magic in them, and they're quite beautiful. They usually are the color of a morning sunrise. Very, very beautiful little stones. So that's one of my favorite folk tales.
And we saw one of those Ember Stones in episode... Was it episode 1, I believe?
I think it was the end of episode 1.
When we set out towards the Gullah Caverns and ran into those elementals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the next question for Amsen. Have you ever put on a puppet show?
A puppet show? I don't believe so, no. But I might, one time. It never really occurred to me. But I might.
You can use those socks that your mother made for you.
I might want to use ones that I don't wear anymore. Or that people in general don't wear anymore after I've thoroughly washed them.
Well, I hope we get to see a puppet show from Amsen someday.
Maybe someday.
Our next couple of questions are for Vesper. So first, what, if any, are your favorite hymns or prayers?
Well, Aiene doesn't exactly have set prayers, for the most part. We sort of all pray to her in our own way. But I have a very nice prayer that I've developed over the years, with Varys and with, Ball a little bit. It's sort of a prayer of thanks, just expressing gratitude towards Aiene for, everything she does for us. Hymns, there are a few that my papa taught me as I was growing up. The one I like the best is it's very sad actually, but it's beautiful. It's sort of detailing the moment Aiene asks the other gods for help after she's severed her connection to heaven, and there's no answer, and she realizes this is something she's got to do on her own, and it's quite sad at the beginning, but it's empowering by the end.
So, following up, well, not exactly following up on that, but on a similar religious theme, if and when you become a full cleric or priestess of Aiene, do you get to wear pretty new clothes? And is this an appealing prospect or no?
I mean, pretty clothes are always an appealing aspect to me. I don't think I get any fancy robes, but I will certainly buy myself some. If I don't get any, new vestments from the temple, I'll make my own. I'm always looking for the next fashionable thing to wear. I do get a new title, but that will come up when I arrive and take my vows, which I don't know how long that's going to be, but I'm excited to get there.
So, if you make your own vestment, this is not Noel's question, but I kind of want to add on to this. What would they look like?
Oh, I mean, I very much like something with wings on the back, if not actual feathered wings, and like an embroidery of it, perhaps. Gosh, I don't know. Something evoking the image of a griffin, definitely. I'd have to sit and work on it.
Well, that is something. That is something that you'll hopefully have more time to think about on our way to Nymenet.
Yeah, hopefully, unless I'm worried about things killing us the whole time.
True.
We're gonna get beset on by Cthulhu and Leviathan at the same time.
God, it wouldn't surprise me. And you know why it's going to happen? Because Calvin won't roll a survival check.
Yep. Yep.
Or because any one of several characters don't know when to back down. So I guess...
Shall I ask Ellory her questions?
Yes. And these are going to be our last two character-specific questions for the evening.
So, Ellory, what is the thing you are most proud of stealing, or the block you're most proud to have picked?
Well, when I steal things, most of the time, I'm not one of those thieves who goes after trophies. Usually I'm looking for something that I can sell off pretty easily to make some cash, though occasionally I'll see some trinket that I like and go ahead and grab that while I'm at it. So I'm not sure I can say there's any one particular item that I'm most proud of stealing. But in terms of locks that I've picked, that one's pretty easy. That is the first lock that I ever picked for, well, not for Mogther, but to show Mogther that I had learned how. So I could have gone to him and asked him for lessons, and that probably would have resulted in a whole lot less trouble. But the reason I went to Voyage is because I wanted to surprise Mogther with my new skill. And I demonstrated it by breaking into his office. So that one I'm definitely the most proud of.
And was he proud of you?
You'd have to ask him.
All right, so the next question for Ellory. If you could steal anything in the world, what would you steal?
You know, I think I might sound a bit like Amsen here, but I haven't seen enough of the world yet to know. I need to see more of what's out there before I can pick one thing in the whole world that I would want to steal. And again, I'm not the type who goes so much for trophies, but there is one thing that's kind of been appealing to me lately.
Ball's heart.
Okay, I'm currently...
Sorry.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's a running joke that us as a group are shipping Ellory and Ball really hard.
So,
well, we kind of touched on it earlier.
Bállory.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it earlier with all the silly jokes, like sparks flying in between them. But yeah, we kind of ship Ball and Ellory really hard.
Yeah.
So, speaking of ships, I'm going to steal a ship, and I'm going to name it Ball's Heart.
Perfect.
That's great.
That's so good.
That's a perfect segue. Bring it back. Ball's Heart sounds like a great ship name anyways.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck all of this. Let's go be pirates on Ball's Heart.
It's funny because when we were planning this game originally, one of the options was pirates. Yep. We can be pirate holy rollers.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's what we'll do. Instead of stealing from ships, we'll come up beside them and we'll board them and then we'll proselytize. We'll hand out pamphlets. Have you heard the good news? All right, happy sailing. Blessings of Aiene upon you.
We'll freaking Jehovah's Witness it.
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witnesses, just random ships on the seven seas.
On the ice.
Yes.
We will become feared across all of the towns and villages that are on the coast.
We will bother each and every single one at ungodly early morning hours.
Hi. You have a moment?
Have you heard the news about the Lady of Redemption?
Hello.
You can go to heaven today. Oh boy.
So that was the last of the questions sent in by any of our listeners. There was one question that we skipped early on because it kind of interrupted the flow of the conversation. So I'm thinking that we can go back to that one and kind of end there with a question that I'm sure Laura Bailey would appreciate if she were here. How many sets of dice do you have, And what is your favorite set?
Oh boy.
Favorite set is a hard one.
Yeah, that's the difficult one. Let me look at my dice again.
Yeah. Me pull out all my babies.
Well, it's not any from the Bag of Devouring. I can tell you that much.
Actually, I think I do have an answer.
Oh, I already have an answer. Duh. It's these ones. There we go. So I was showing these to the people earlier. I guess I should answer the question first. I did the math, and I think I have 27 dice sets. Maybe 28. The Bag of Devouring comes with 20. And then I have a green dice set. Oops. And then I have a green dice set, mithril. It's like silver and blue. The black critical roll dice that came with the bag. A red dice set, which was my first dice set ever. Elven, from I can't remember the company. I'll look it up and I'll link it in the description. I have a steampunk set, and then I have 7, 27, and then I have a Gemini set. And the Gemini set is my favorite one. It's one of the ones that my girlfriend got me, and it is teal and purple mixture. It's kind of half and half, but it's also kind of blended, and it's really cool. And I don't use them because they are in my backpack all the time, and so they go with me wherever I go. So those are my favorite ones. But yeah, and then I have so even though I have 27 dice sets, I think I also have probably 70 to 80 dice, just loose dice.
Jesus.
Yeah, mixtures of like D6s, D8s, a few loose D20s, that kind of thing. Including 3 of my dad's dice. They are these very, very old cobalt blue dice. They're a little bit smaller than the rest of them that I have. And I have the D6, the D12, and the D8. Sadly, I don't have the D20. Otherwise, I'd be using that one all the time. But yeah, so I do have my dad's dice, some of them.
So no one is ever allowed to make fun of me for how many dice I have now.
You know what? I'm still gonna.
You're still going to, but
I'll just be breaking the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably, out of everybody else here, I probably have the most physical dice.
Yeah.
We can tell who's been playing the longest.
Right.
Yeah. I've been playing regularly for 4 years. So.
I only have 21 sets of dice.
Oh, good grief.
I have, because I divide my dice by character. So anytime I'm playing a character, they have their specific set of dice. And it's gotten to a point now where both Vesper, Faust, and then a bard that I'm going to be playing for Noël, actually, they all have 6 sets apiece because I refuse to take any out of Faust or Vesper sets.
And because you love all of your children equally.
Because I love all of my children equally. And then I have 3 sets, 2 of which I'm going to use for a warlock way down the road for Nyessa. And then one of which is just my extra, it's like this fiery kind of reddish purple set that I used for an alchemist that I played with Nyessa and Noël when you were playing Encarid. They were Fables dice. I think my favorite set, which is really hard because I really love all of my dice and they're so pretty, but my favorite one I think is my purple set. It's kind of sparkly and a little bit translucent. And this one always tends to roll well for me. It's one of Vesper's sets this time around. But it was my go-to dice for my last Northel character, Ravenwick. Because for some reason, this was the die that always rolled well for her. Except for in like a couple weird instances. And then I have 2 loose D20s. I have one that's like kind of a steampunk gear one. I have one that's in the shape of a wizard hat. And then I have 2 necklaces that have D20s on them, but I don't know if that counts. So I have one that's got like a brown D20 that looks like almost like wood, and then I have one that's like a pink D20.
All right.
I just want to interrupt for a second here and then show on camera for Swan and Nyessa. So the Bag of Devouring, my chest, which I usually use. It's just a jewelry box that I've made into a dice box. And then I have this bag as well that I never use. It was knitted by a friend of mine who has since moved away. And then I just want to bring attention to these D6s.
Ooh.
For the listeners, they are sparkly purpley red, and I call them my Jessica Rabbit dice. Because they are the exact same color and glitteriness as her dress.
That is perfect.
Amazing. Yeah, my dice tags, I have, this one's Vespers. It's purple and gold. Everyone calls it the Crown Royal bag, but I'm like, yeah, but it's Gilmore's Glorious Goods. But it's slightly velvet, and so it's very decadent and very much Vesper. Then I have this one, which is like this pixelated little letter with a heart on it, and that's the one I use for Faust, because she's a courier. So, you know. And then the one I have for my upcoming bard says, though she is little, though she be but little, she is fierce.
So speaking of Gilmore's Glorious Goods, by the way, my dice bag, because I only have one and I can fit all of my dice into it very easily because I don't have as many as you people. But mine is knitted from the leftover yarn that I used to make the Gilmore's Glorious Goods banner that is currently, and has been for a while, on the set of Talks Machina. So if you look behind the couch where the guests sit, you'll see that banner, and that is the same colors that my dice bag is, because it's the same yarn. I put the pattern up for it, so if any of you listening out there are knitters and you want to knit your own dice bag, you could find this pattern somewhere on my Tumblr, and I think we can put a link to that in the show notes as well.
We can dig it up from the endless pit that is Tumblr posts.
Yeah.
God.
So I only have 7 sets of dice in my dice bag. I have the first set that I got, I never use. It came from the Pathfinder starter set, and I don't really like it very much, so I never use it. But I have my pink sort of rose quartz looking dice that, because my cleric of Desna, she would use this for any of her cleric-y things, since rose quartz is symbolic for Desna. I also have dwarven runes for whenever Harry does dwarfy things. And for Ellory, I have this really pretty, this blue with sort of white swirled in and gold numbers that I use for Ellory. And my newest 2 sets are one, the sort of fiery orange that is also for Ellory when she does fiery things, and a sort of bronze for my Earth Genasi character that I'll be playing later, and my Critical Role set. So that is all of my dice, plus some random D6s as well, because those are always useful. My favorite set is actually the first set that I ever rolled, and that is this sort of almost iridescent purple. You can see different shades if you look at it in the light, with gold numbers. And my first roll, which was just a year ago on this die, was an 18, which I took as good luck.
I just want to highlight 3 of my favorite dice. I've talked about them before outside of game.
You talk to your dice?
You don't?
Shush.
Well, true. I do.
I am not as eloquent as my character. So don't put that on me. That struggle
is real.
But yeah, I just want to highlight these 3 dice. They got... I used them primarily for one of my past characters. His name was Otesro Zagerserd. He was a tiefling investigator in Pathfinder. And these 3 dice are specifically geared towards 3 different areas of play. The black and red one, interestingly enough, only rolls good on combat dice, I swear. I sound like the most superstitious asshole right now, but actually, my black and red one only rolls good on combat rolls. So, like, if I'm rolling to, like, hit people with my sword or shoot people or whatever. I have another one. It's a green one. It's kind of emeraldy looking, with white numbers. And the one is a skull. And it might be a Magic the Gathering die, which are not balanced very well. But it only rolls good on skill checks. Only. Ever. Seriously. My white one with black numbers, it only rolls good on saving throws. No joke. They got me from level 4. We started at level 4 all the way to level 15. And that's how they acted all the way through. We played that game for like a year and a half or something like that. Except for one time where I rolled... I'm trying to see if I still have the picture on my phone. I rolled triple 1s before because we were playing with fumbles. I rolled a 1 to hit. I rolled so then I got a fumble. I rolled a 1 to hit one of my teammates, and then I rolled 1 on damage on a D8. And I'm trying to find the picture on my phone because it's absolutely hilarious.
That's amazing.
The best part is that what's it called? The fumble that I got that got generated was called Catastrophic Failure.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful.
It's a good thing the damage was only 1, though.
There we go. Yeah, I rolled 1 on the red die that I have. I rolled a 1 on my saving throw die, and I rolled a 1 on my steampunk D8. And I will get that onto my computer and upload it so that I can tag that.
That is the only time when you want to roll a third 1 in a row.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. I just held it up to the camera so that they could see. It's pretty bad. Oh, and then the Frost Heraculum Rapier +1 was also a cursed sword with the soul of my character's father.
Yikes.
It was great. It was a great game. Love you, Craig. The DM. That was bad.
All right.
Good stuff.
I think it's about time to wrap up.
All right.
I agree.
So, Alexander, do you want to take us out?
Sure. I would like to thank you for listening to this episode of Back to the Story Bonfire Fables. Tune in next time, I guess, to hear us, hopefully, upload another actual session. Hopefully, next time we do this, if we do this another time, we'll have some more people that are not us that we can ask questions to. Maybe get some answers at a ball, for example. So, thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed these questions, these answers, and we hope to be able to do this again sometime soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Back to the Story. For notifications when an episode goes live, you can subscribe to us on podcasts.com or follow us on Twitter at back_to_the story. Or if you would like further information about the campaign, the player characters, NPCs, or behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, follow us on Tumblr at back-to-the-story.tumblr.com.